Welcome to the Startup Grind.
I felt bad talking about you when you weren't in the room, so I'll tell everyone a little bit more about you before we get into it. So Juliette is on a mission to alleviate the effects of poverty across Australia. She's established GIVIT as an online platform in 2009 to connect those who have with those in need. Juliette's vision has resulted in almost 300,000 items donated through GIVIT to assist vulnerable, marginalised and disadvantaged Australians. Juliette's also earned the title of Australia's Local Hero in 2015 and a few others which we'll talk about. We're going to let Juliette tell the rest of her story, so we'll get started. Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Great. Yes. Excellent. And
Hello.
Please remember to contribute if you'd like to as we go through. All right.
Just put your hand up. Are you allowed to? Right.
Well, it is a small enough room that we can do that today as well, so whichever you feel like doing. All right, so we're going to start with a bit of background and upbringing, where it all began for you. You can tell us where you're from and I suppose how you started off.
So I was born at the Brisbane Martyr. I drove past there today and got all nostalgic. I was wondering. And I am Brisbane through and through, but I have a lot of family in Ireland. So every 18 months my mum would get quite homesick and she would take me home to Ireland. So I feel like I know parts of Ireland better than I know Brisbane, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know over the other side of the river at all. I have to GPS.
Yes.
So, but I know,
typical Brisbane,
I know
right?
the heartland of Ireland pretty well. I don't need GPS though.
Awesome. So you grew up in Brisbane. What did you do after school?
I became a naturopath. And over the next 10 years, my dad was a GP and I was probably a quirky naturopath because I actually didn't have an aversion to people taking drugs, prescribed drugs. And so I was one of those naturopaths that I ended up specialising in autoimmune diseases and cancer and allergies. And it was good. I loved it. I thought that allergies were fascinating.
So how long did you work in that industry for?
10 years.
Right.
So
Okay.
when the kids were born, you see, the thing is that I've got a problem. I actually am I'm empathetic, but I actually am also sympathetic. So when people were sick, I actually really felt it. And I remember being a naturopath and just burning out all the time because I'd just cry. Like, you'd have a client come in and have a miscarriage. And I mean, I'd be down for 2 days with sadness. So I actually realised when I'd had the kids that I couldn't go back into that one-on-one. So I knew that I wanted to help people. I knew that it's a really important value of mine to be connected to people. But I didn't literally want to be in the same room with them. Like, I wanted to help the wider community.
Enter the internet.
But I didn't know what I was going to do, so I thought maybe I'd lecture, so maybe, but that wasn't, I accidentally started GIVIT.
Wow. So GIVIT was your first business?
Yeah, it was the first time. Yeah, it was the first
Yeah.
time that I actually registered. So a Facebook thing came up the other day. You get a memory. So 9 years ago today, last week, I started a company.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And so tell us how that came about.
So I have a baby boy called Hudson who is 8 now. So he's not really a baby. He's got legs to here, and he's 7. And when he was born, he was beautiful, but then he accidentally got really fat really fast. By the age of 6 weeks, he started to put on weight, and then he completely bypassed 000. So he went 000, 0, and then he was wearing size 1 shirts. And so all of the clothes that I got given, I should say, were beautiful, like from my cousins in America, like Seed and Sprout and Calvin Klein, and Ralph Lauren make leather trimmed like bibs, which I thought surely that's PU leather, but actually it was real leather. I don't know how you're going to wash that bib. And it was about those 2 Coles freezer bags, those blue ones, and I was about to put them in the local donation bin, and someone put a severed pig head in our local donation bin. So I actually realised pretty quickly that is not the way to give great stuff. It's not respected, no one loves it, it's a dumping ground. You've seen them, everyone's got to have seen that people now actually raid them, not to mention actually leave stuff outside of them. And it costs the salvos like $7 million a year to dump all the really bad quality stuff they get given, and I was not putting these good clothes in there. So I was really, really grateful for my life. Like, it's a bit of a default thing in me. I think it's my personal antidepressant. But I was really grateful because I think I was breastfeeding. Like, I was really grateful. And I realised I really wanted to give these clothes directly to someone, like, who didn't have what I had. Like, I got the white picket fence, perfect guy, like great dog, you know, like I really, two really healthy kids, although one of them was obese. And I was embarrassed because I was a naturopath, remember, so I was really had a really fat baby. And I made him do a poo before I weighed him at the nurse station, because otherwise he would have been in the 100th percentile and had to go to some baby fat camp. So I actually decided that I was going to give this, so I rang all the charities in the yellow pages. So I rang every charity in Burpengary, in Kalenga, and in Pine River Shire, and none of them would take the clothes. And they said, "Oh, I got the pick of we get the pick of the bunch from Lifeline and Salvos." And I said, "Well, what do you need?" And they said, "Well, first charity said that they needed undies." And I was going, "Great, okay, well, I can give you undies. I'll get you some undies." And they said, "No, new undies." And I said, "No, I can get you undies." And they said, "No, new undies." And I said, "What's your attitude?" And she said that people keep donating used underwear and the homeless woman will not wear it. And I went, "Yeah, of course they wouldn't. Like, I wouldn't. You just go commando, wouldn't you?" And I thought, okay, and then I rang another charity and they said they needed sanitary items. And they said, "But please don't buy just one type. Like, we have a variety of women that are coming through, all the way through to maternity. You know, we've got the young ones and the old ones. So can you please just buy?" And I was like, "Yeah, I will." But when I delivered the undies to Pindari, they're in Quarry Street, I swear to God, they looked at me like, firstly they opened the bag up and then looked inside and then smiled. And I felt like Santa, like on a weekday. And I'd had the two kids and I just felt so good. Like I'd felt this real connection and I felt like I'd really participated and I felt connected to my community. And I was driving down just feeling so good and I went, that was it, I was addicted since then. So I decided maybe there was other people on the planet that wanted to donate stuff. I rang one charity and they needed closed-toe work boots at this children's service. And I said, "I don't understand why you need closed-toe work boots, you're going to have to tell me." And they said, "Well, the reason that the child is homeless, the mother is with her, is the father's lost his job. So if he had a pair of closed-toe work boots, he'd be able to get work on the roads." So I realised that really simple things can pull people out of poverty. But also charities don't have a warehouse full of stuff for a rainy day. They don't have a big W out the back. Mm-hmm. Most charities are confined in spaces and they're not for dividend. They've got no profit, you know, they can't expand too quickly without a grant. And also is that they weren't social media experts in 2009. They did not have the whereabouts to promote the daily needs of their clients. And the other final thing is that we actually have a terrible sense of, we have no idea what they need. We think they need baby clothes. They don't need baby clothes. They need a microwave. They need a baby change table. So I decided to start GIVIT and I failed building the website. I put my husband on one of those Optifast shake diets to save up money from groceries. And he did lose weight, it was good. And I put him on this diet and I was saving up money and $500, and you're all probably laughing because I was trying to build a digital database for donations, but I didn't know how to talk about it to these IT guys. And I was a naturopath. And I said, all I wanted to do is, if a charity, what we do is we authenticate that they are really a charity, and then we put their request on the list, and if you take it and donate it, put in your details, all I do is swap your details. I'm just a matchmaker. And if it's got to drop off the list automatically. I don't want two people donating the same thing. And guess what? Anyway, it's not automatic. And I go, okay, so can you make it automatic? And they said, no, it's on a API or blah, 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 blah. I was like, jumbo. And I said, it's built on something that can never do that. So, right, wrote a contract with the next dude, paid $900, diet continues, husband still not eating meat. And he's a big beef eater, right? So I had to make sure, it's expensive. So I'm still saving up money, buying undies, closed-toe work boots and stuff. So I was still doing all of that on the side. Anyway, $900. Anyway, website number 2. It was awful. Can I swear? It was a cluster. And anyway, so I said, it's not automatically falling off the list. You know when you get your website and you're just testing it? It's not automatically. He goes, all you have to do, madam, is you have to log in and then you have to go around the back and you click that button and it'll automatically fall off the list. And I was like, I really thought he was in Melbourne, but I don't think he was now that I think about it. And anyway, so finally, my husband said, oh, shut up. And he gave me $5,000 and basically put him out of his misery. And what was really amazing is that no one actually thought it was a good idea, because everyone said, you're going to do a donation portal? Like, that sounds really risky. Are you insured? Apparently I had the terms and conditions of a hairdresser, apparently. But yes, I said, yeah, we've got insurance, we're all covered, and blah, blah, blah. And everyone said no. Everyone said it wouldn't work. Everyone. Everyone. And I remember when I failed the second website, I decided to just ignore everyone on the planet and the universe and everyone in it, because that's how the only way that GIVIT started was by actually just ignoring all the no votes. And I think when my mum was a big no vote. Sorry, Mum, I had to out you. And it was funny, when the first item got donated, I actually was so excited and was so happy that this microwave got donated for this old guy who'd lost his wife and couldn't cook hot food. And so they could just, at least he could heat something else other than tea and toast. And the most amazing thing about the whole thing was it wasn't my mum who donated it out of total pity. Out of total pity, yeah.
So it's someone else.
So that's how it started. And then it just went gangbusters.
Okay, so you created GIVIT as a not-for-profit, is that right?
Yeah, so I actually told the ATI, I said, I'm not doing it unless you give me DGR status. I said, I'm not doing it. So I actually kind of threatened them. If you don't give me DGR status, which means tax exemption, I'm not going to do this, because I needed donations, because people are more likely to give you a donation for that. And I didn't know any other way. Yeah, so that was my deal.
So was there any other options that you considered at that point in terms of the setup?
Oh, yeah, my husband. So just, please, so my husband became quite a beneficiary. He actually became a major funder of GIVIT when his business got more successful. So we kind of do consider it now our legacy, even though we are funded by other people now, like IAG and great working partners. And so now that we're funded on that level, but we still funded it all the way through. With a not-for-profit, and I think any business, you've really got to say, how am I going to survive for 3 years without on anything, on air? Yeah,
that's it. Okay, and well, tell us what happened then, because I think my questions now are probably down the track. So let's keep going.
So it was going really well. So we went from 10 charities to 80 charities, and it was going really well. But what was happening is people were wanting to donate stuff that wasn't on the list, and I was becoming a bit of a militant giver. I was kind of well trained by a few social workers. So if it's not on the list, it's not needed, But then people were saying, oh, we're relocating, and we've got washing machine, well, that's needed. And a microwave, well, that's needed, but then they've got all this other great stuff, but it wasn't needed that day.
Yeah.
So what I was doing is I was getting all these great lovely gifts, donations, and then I was sending them in one email, BCCing all the charities, and it was first in, best dressed. And I was addicted. I was just like, this is the best job ever. So I'm just like, I felt like I was like a matching agency, and I was high-fiving the dog and dancing with my Rhodesian Ridgeback, so I was a bit lonely at the celebration. But when one item went off back then, I would seriously celebrate. I felt like I was like the head of the soccer, the winning goal. And
so you were working from home at this point?
Yeah, and it was a couple of weeks into it, and Glenn, my husband, goes, "Are you going to the shops today?" And I'm like, "No, I'm working. I have purpose." And he said, "Well, can you go to the shops for me, please?" And I was saying, "Why? We don't need for anything, Coles, whatever." I don't know what I was doing back then. And he said, "Well, I need you to go to the shops because I have no undies." And I said, "Why?" And he goes, "Well, you haven't done the washing for 2 weeks." And I said, "I have." And he said, "Yeah, but I need the kids." So he said, "What's the problem?" And I said, "Oh, I'm doing this." And he said, "The website's supposed to be automatic. All you got to do is authenticate what the charities want to put up." And I said, "Oh, but this amazing stuff's happening offline." And he goes, "Well," anyway, that night he came home and he goes, "Oh, this is not working for me." And he said, and so what we did is we built a virtual warehouse. And I confess, GIVIT's just won the Australian Innovation Award, and I didn't tell them that it was because Glenn had dirty undies. Okay, so that's exactly why it started, because he was frustrated that I was spending so much time on something that was supposed to be automatic. So a virtual warehouse is that you can download the app, or you can go onto the website, the app now, and that you can pledge your bag. Just say you have a bag or a pram, and you can actually take a photograph of it, put it in the warehouse, where charities can log in, and then they can put in their postcode and how far they're willing to travel. It's like eBay without the money or the auction, and they can take whatever it is that they want. No limit, go for gold, they can have anything. And in there, if we were to log in and put in postcode 4000 and bed, there'd be maybe 40 bedside tables, beds, and you can see photographs. And what the great thing about that is now, if someone's social worker is sitting with someone who's homeless or moving into new accommodation, or a woman escaping domestic violence who's relocating, they can actually go on and actually choose what they want, and that gives them this huge sense of ownership, even though there's no cash involved. But that's really important, particularly for people suffering from mental disease. So it's going really well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Such a great story, hey? And such a great storyteller, I should say, as well. So give us some insights into running a social enterprise like GIVIT. Like, how is that? What does that mean for you?
I've lost 3,000 nights of sleep on money. You know, I am still considered a startup, having done 300,000 donations and managed 5 natural disasters, so that's another story. And you know, and I've got a footprint in WA, and I've got a charity in every state. So I've got 1,100 charities that use GIVIT around Australia now. And so I've got 5 in Tasmania, and I've got 14 in Northern Territory, and I've got 170 in New South Wales, and 750 in Queensland. And so I'm still startup, because I haven't proven that this in Queensland, which is the really true working model, can happen in other states. And I've got funding to do that, so I've just restructured the business to scale up for basically a national rollout. But it's hard, because if you don't get funding, you know, it's paralysing, isn't it? But on the other hand, you just do it anyway, don't you? Without the money, you just tick tock.
What does funding look like for you these days?
Okay, well, I'm
both
okay.
These days and before.
I'm probably, so this time last year, I thought that GIVIT was going to fail. I thought that all the funding people were going to pull out, and there was a contract that was going to fail, and then there was funding that was going to abandon me because I didn't have that contract. And then my husband sold his business, so he's not got, you know, the 1% turnover that he donates. And so I was like, oh, I've got to go back to the Australia Day Awards and say, sorry, don't go to that website. So I'm not saying that it's been easy in the last 12 months, but now I've got a new corporate funder in IAG. I've got amazing fundraisers who just raised $220,000 for GIVIT last weekend. I mean, so it's, yeah.
How are they fundraising?
They're doing a road rally across Australia, and each car has to donate $1,000, and then some cars donated $20,000.
Wow.
So it's going really well.
And you mentioned contracts. Can you tell us what they look like? What's a contract?
So I've got a couple of contracts going on now. So GIVIT, I was about a year old when the Cyclone Yasi and the floods hit in 2011, and the GIVIT, the Premier's office, I think it was Anna Bly's, it was Premier and Cabinet, rang me and said, do you mind if we put GIVIT on the How to Help page? And I was watching these images, and I don't know, I think we were all paralysed and teary, and just, yeah, I said, I'm here, I'm yours, I'll do anything to help. Well, the website got 1.8 million hits in 10 days. So it was a little baby that could, I tell you. She was amazing.
Didn't fall over?
Well, actually, the IT guys didn't actually donate to the floods. They actually donated babysitters to actually monitor the website. So it was great. That 1.8 was conservative because it was a flood of donations that went through. One of the things I realised, though, is that in disasters, people actually start donating crap. So the average thing that goes through GIVIT's about 90-95% great quality. Like you'll have 5% of people on the planet that go, oh dear, that mattress is perfectly fine. I've been sleeping on it for 20 years. So you get them, once you get them out of the way, there's not many other people, you know, that, you know, they just want to give, and people want to gift it to someone in urgent need. But in a disaster, I would say it goes down to 20 to 25%. So we're more defined by what we actually say no to in a disaster by what GIVIT says yes to. Now, so in that we did 33,500 donations in 3 weeks, and I had volunteers at the time, and they were all out of contact. One was in Byron camping, and one was in Japan, and didn't have connectivity, both of them basically. So I basically ran it the whole self, and I think that's why I won that award. But it was very rewarding. But I was in a cyclone of donations. Like we had people, there was Wellingtons and hygiene products just flying everywhere. And in that year, we did 45,000 donations just for floods.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is that really like a turnaround point for you in terms of the reach and PR around what you were doing?
And then I actually found out my sustainability model, because I did not realise, but the offers of goods and assistance in disasters is a plague. Now I'm talking migraine. They call it a headache, but I think it's a migraine because they really hate it. Managing it. So in a disaster, governments really don't know how to manage the influx of donated goods and also offers of goods and services. And the great thing now is that GIVIT actually brokers that, and we work with councils, the state department, you know, the Queensland government, councils, everyone in local government, and frontline services, including Red Cross and Salvos and all of them. So they can request whatever it is they need, like a pallet of water, and I've got a tsunami of people just waiting to donate it. It's the best job in the world.
So did you know when you started it that you were going to be able to get funding from government for that kind of thing?
No, I had a dream. Like, I remember the Black Saturday fires where 173 people died, and I remember seeing the donation crisis through that. I don't know if you all know, but there was, the stats came out a year later, so I didn't know it at the time, but 40,000 pallets of goods were stored, were not used.
Wow.
That was 2 times the MCG grounds in donated goods that were never even touched by victims.
Wow, that's huge. So that was obviously then a nice kind of bonus funding source for you.
So now GIVIT is I've got a contract in, I don't know where it's going to go, with New South Wales, with ACT, with Northern Territory government. They're all just like, please manage offers of assistance.
Awesome.
This is a headache,
Great.
And I say, I love that headache.
Yeah.
I'll be your aspirin.
Yeah, that's
aspirin.
right. So growth to date, like what, I guess, you know, you mentioned interstate, something that you're working on growing. What are the challenges in that space of replicating it?
The problems is that everyone's got the same storm season and fire season and flood season, so the probability is I'll never have a summer off again. So you've got to think, our storm season goes from November 1st to April 30, and that's the fire season in WA, where we actually do disaster recovery in WA now. And so I fear managing multiple catastrophic disasters in multiple states. No, we have the capacity to, and I have great people on the ground, but every now and again I think about, can you imagine having 2 cyclone Yasis in different states?
And how much of that process is automated now, like through
yeah,
the
most
system
of it.
versus...
Yeah. But one thing has to be automated for this to work, is that we have to automate stuff that goes into the virtual warehouse. So at the moment there's volunteers that actually authenticate every single thing that goes into the virtual warehouse. And so I am investigating ways for actually making that automatic and having a robot or bot actually say, this is dubious, have a check of this, you know. But most of the stuff, like if it was baby clothes, we should chuck it straight up.
Yes.
But if it was a mattress, that would automatically go into the list, kind of thing. So it's working well.
Great.
It will work well. But I think the technology is probably, I need another year or so, the technology to catch up on that. Would everybody agree? That automatic kind of answering of...
I think you could do it now.
Yeah.
It's like a...
If anybody knows more.
We used to have like a swearatron on a website I worked for years ago, and it's the same kind of concept, right? So it picks up keywords and flags them, and...
But I've got so many corporate partners now as well that they just are hanging out to do corporate responsibility and do their volunteering day. So one of the things that we're going to do is actually train them in the virtual warehouse. So when it starts, they could at least do 2 or 3 hours a day.
Great.
And I think that would fulfil that capacity easily. Yeah. Because it only takes a minute,
Yeah, check.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Tick, tick, tick.
Tell us about the awards you've won, because there's been at least 2, right? Or is there more?
Okay, so I won an Australia Day award. You know Rosie Batty? Oh man, she's a goddess. So I won that year. So she was the Australian of the Year, the senior and then young, and I'm the local hero. I'm not saying I'm the 4th wheel, but it's the lesser known award. But it's a proud group of people, like amazing. I was sitting in this group of 7 or 8 people, and one guy flies children home from Westmead Hospital to see their families during chemo for free. You know, like, Mary wakes up at 4 o'clock and she's in Tasmania and she looks after the boats and she keeps all the fishermen's secret swimming spots and fishing spots and keeps them safe, and she's a goddess, and she's a true local hero. She's saved countless lives. And one woman in Western Australia had a drink driver come through her house, kill her baby, nearly her toddler, and started a drink driving campaign that reduced the drink driving by like 70%.
Wow.
Anyway, so I still am in a bit of shock that I got that. And I don't feel I fully deserve it. Like everybody was just so beautiful. And then it kind of started this kind of tumble turn of other people noticing what I was doing. And I won the Australian Innovation Award. There's about 9 others. Do you mind?
Wow.
Yeah. It was good. I had a good year. It kind of got a bit ridiculous.
They were all in the same period?
Yeah, so it's in the last 18 months, I think I've won 11 or so.
So did you put yourself out there to be nominated for those, or did that kind of happen?
I think the chairman of my board put me up for the Australian of the Year one, and then I think we did the Australian one. I think one of my girls wrote that, and my favourite one this year was I'm the local citizen for my local area, my electorate.
Oh, awesome.
So it doesn't. Yeah, it's not for that though. So, see, I think that's all really great. And if I actually had to tell you why I'm okay about that, is because that has actually raised the profile of GIVIT.
Yes.
So that's okay. But if it wasn't raising the profile of GIVIT, then I wouldn't do it. Yeah.
And you've recently launched GIVIT for Kids. Can you tell us about that?
So what I actually realised is that 1 in 6 Queensland children live under the internationally accepted poverty line. So that is 1 in 6 kids. Now I know we go further north and that's where those stats come from, that it's obviously further north. But you've got to think 1 in 6 children in Queensland don't have what they need to grow and thrive and strive. And the thing is about little kids, it's not much. You know, like they just need white school socks and a green hat to participate. You know, it's not rocket science to fill their lunchbox. It's not expensive. But also you've actually got you've actually got 5 kids that actually have a lot. I don't know about your kids, but I've got this BYOT thing. They have to have their own iPad, and my 5.5, 6-year-old has to have his own iPad. So here's Minecraft with him for 8 hours a day. So, you know, I think that kids have too much. And so what I did is I set up GIVIT Kids, which I'm presently reskinning and rebranding. I'm just changing the look and feel. And that's because I want the kids that have stuff to meet the urgent material needs of the kids who don't have stuff. And that means that I needed to change the policies, like the child safety policies and things like that. And then I went, I'll take it a step further and I'll teach kids the love of giving. And then I realised that my values actually aligned with Year 3, 5 and 6 curriculum. Oh. So we wrote curriculum. I wrote curriculum with curriculum writers. They were awesome. Interesting people. And so now we're actually embedded into DEEP, Queensland Education and Department of Education and Training, as a resource for teachers going, what am I going to do with these kids for 6 weeks? And now GIVIT Kids, they can get projects on there.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's going
awesome.
really well. It's not the game, I'm not disappointed with GIVIT Kids. I don't have funding for GIVIT Kids, but it's not the game changing for kids that I wanted it to be. Like I'm still, I think that's very much still in that way startup phase. And I'm thinking I need to disrupt that again. Like my latest idea was, okay, I want poor kids to access this stuff. So maybe I'm just going to do like a freebie for kids where all the kids can just donate everything to each other or something like that, because I don't feel like the donation flow is fast enough.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Watch this space.
I'm unsatisfied.
Well, I think it's a great idea to be able to encourage kids to see what other people need. I mean, I think that's something that...
And get them addicted to giving. Because once they do give directly, I mean, I think we need to go beyond that gold coin flicking, you know, bandana days and all those really great causes. But those gold coins aren't actually triggering their sense of...
and then some parents actually forget to send the coin because you're too worried on the outfit.
I actually have done that too, so don't worry. And some of those charities are friends of mine and I feel really guilty.
Yes. Well, speaking of kids, I mean, you are the first woman founder that I've interviewed for Startup Grind, so thank you for playing that part for us. But, you know, I guess also being a working mum, what does that mean for you day to day? How does that fit in your life? And, you know, I think all the women here who have kids or thinking about that would hopefully appreciate understanding a bit of this as well.
I don't know if for the first 5 years, 6 years, it's 6, 7, yeah. I don't know if I've done that. I've done that well because I have to say that I feel like GIVIT is actually a child of mine. And so I actually think about it as much as I think about my children. So, but what I find is with my family, I just go with the flow. So for example, it's coming into school holidays and I am ready to go 0 GIVIT, 100% family for 2 weeks, and I'm just so excited about it. But after 2 weeks of that, I'm prepared to shut that down and go back to this. So I do very much the scales. Now, if I'm away from the kids for 2 nights in a weekday, I actually start to get withdrawals from them, and it disbalances the family. And so Glenn and I have now got a recipe of what's really functional for our family. Like last year after the Australia Day Awards, I was all over the place, just trying to get money and just funding and making hay while it was sunny. And I sometimes was in 3 cities in 2 days, and you know that kind of stuff just hurts you. You know, it just makes you really chronically tired. And so that does not work for the kids. So when I do 150% here, that's not good here, but I think I've worked out the recipe for that now. But I'm really excited about the school holidays and no school lunches, everybody. Yeah, baby.
What do you think other female founders or potential female startups need to know about the juggle?
I think you need to tell everybody, I'm so sorry, but I'm leaning in, and I'm going to lean in, and I'm leaning in for another 3 years, and then I'm going to take 6 months off, but I am full on the accelerator, and my friends, they've got to know that I'm just available weekends or maybe 4 weeks in advance, 3 weeks in advance, I'm booked out, so you can have a lunch with me, but you can't have it next Tuesday. I never go to ladies' lunches because they always decide about them on a Tuesday, like they just impromptu, and it drives me nuts. So I never get to go to any of that stuff. So my social life, but I've just said 3 more years, boom.
What's 3 years?
By the end of 3 years, I want to be in most states managing catastrophic disasters. So I know that sounds catastrophic, but so when you first go to a state, you don't commit to doing any disasters. You've got some things you've got to hit. You've got to get the media messages in. You've got to have partnering with the government. You've got to be in their government disaster recovery and response meetings, and then you've got to raise the profile among charities, because when you actually get this flood of donations in, you actually need charities to draw all the donations. Like we have 750 charities in Queensland, and work with all the councils and the local governments, or most anyway, and it's a perfect recipe. So hopefully I would have that rolled out in at least 4 states, and then I'll take my foot off the accelerator for 6 months.
Awesome. And
then New Zealand.
in terms of your team now,
and then Asia.
and then go back. In terms of your team now, what does that look like?
So I've got 6 staff, and all different hours. So some roles don't need full-time, some roles do. And so my disaster recovery manager is full-time. My GM, who I just brought on this week, is full-time. But then my admin's only 0.8 and my account's 0.6. So, and then I've got 15 volunteers as well.
Okay.
And they do all donation management. So they do all the hearty, yummy stuff.
Fantastic. Do you have a mentor?
No. I actually have really clever friends though. And I think the most inspired I've been in terms of, like, I actually get inspiration just from talking to people. But I went to Stanford University, and I totally recommend this if you're in not-for-profit space or social entrepreneur. I went to the executive program for social entrepreneurs at Stanford, and I was just, as I was saying to some people before, I met my tribe there. It's this mistake-friendly place where you learn how to scale up. It was just so wonderful, and I think I met 52 mentors there.
So this program, what does that mean? Was it you had to be there, or?
Well, you had to be a social entrepreneur. So you're for-profit or not-for-profit, but you had to do social good. So we had people who were promoting in some random Mexican, I didn't even know where this guy came from, and it was a little tiny country, and I can't remember it. And he was actually getting culturally beautiful goods and actually selling them and promoting the local goods. And there was this great debate about, well, if that actual product keeps on selling, is that person still an artist or are they just a manufacturer? So there was this great space where we could actually go, we want to create social good, but we don't want to do damaging to cultural communities. And it was just this really great place. I really enjoyed it. I was actually probably in this great space where I had funding to scale up, and I had support, and I had great support. Actually, I do have a mentor. I do. There's a guy who actually is part of my board, and he's got this innovative brain. No problem is too small or too big, or it's really great. So yeah, I do.
What does innovation mean to you?
I just problem solve. Yeah.
Because you're a big fan of innovation, right?
Well, I like solving problems like poverty, and stuff, but. And I love using innovation to do that. Like at GIVIT, it's a digital database of donations, and that has massive positive effects. I don't know, what is innovation? Isn't it just giving it a crack? I don't know.
What was your biggest takeaway from the Stanford experience?
Be okay about making mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't feel like I've got a group of friends or people here that are totally cool about that. I think I don't know, does everybody, who's made a mistake in the IT world? Oh God, So I feel like when you're in Stanford, they actually really put that as a badge of honour. That person's made some mistakes, and that actually de-risks you. And venture capitalists want you, because, if you actually only had 10 successes, we're like, I don't know about your, So there's,
you do.
But another thing, as I was saying, is if you have had 10 successes, your success is kind of influenced by how much people think you're going to be successful next time. So, you have to get up and pack over to go to the other side of the state, go to the East Coast to try out your startup, because it was really fascinating. Yeah, I totally recommend going to Stanford just for the D School. Does anybody heard of the design school thinking? That's so good. So I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but what you do is you actually I'm going to talk about this briefly, but you actually get a problem, and then you just say the problem is that you wanted to create a great toothpaste. Well, you chunk that up because it's not about toothpaste. You actually want to have someone to have a wide, beaming smile. And then what you have to do is you have to go and interview hundreds of people about it. And so you get, and this guy did this, and he, one of the stories that I heard was, and then what you do is you do a prototype and then you test it on the market again, and then it's an innovative idea. What this guy did is he said, everybody's got these dimes in their pocket in America. Everybody's got dimes because they're like 1 cent and stuff like that. They're tiny and they're made of nickels, and I think they're called nickels actually. There's nickels on there as well. And what was happening is everyone was putting them in their Mason's jar. So what he did is he went around and he interviewed 1,500 people about what do you do. He wanted to know everything that you do with a coin, like neurotic, but it was actually empathic work. He found it. And then what he did is he actually did a prototype of a coin machine. And so what would happen is everybody would go to the supermarket, they'd see the coin machine, they'd put in their coins, spit out the buttons and the paper clips and whatever else is in there. And then he said, because everybody wants to give their coins to charity, you could actually choose which charity you wanted to give your coin money to, and or put it on your debit card or your credit card. And then he actually also interviewed the American Mint, and they are the guys who pick up the coins because it's cheaper for them to go and pick up the coins than actually go and buy nickel.
Wow.
So he's going very well. And all he did was just interview 1,500 people. And I know that sounds really hard, but it's not interviewing, it's actually getting really empathic with lots of different types of people to solve a problem. Yeah, it was really fascinating. Go. Yeah.
So how long were you over there for?
Oh, 6 days.
Wow.
That's all the
Big
family
6
would let me
days.
go. Yeah, that was hard work. I had to, yeah.
I don't think I've received any questions yet. Does anyone have one they'd like to ask? Yes.
Have you considered
Oh, you have?
hackathons as a means of harnessing innovation and collaboration?
Hackathons. I'd love to do that. Yes. Well, how can I do that with GIVIT Kids?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'm in. I just want poor kids to access stuff, and I don't care if a few rich kids do too.
Sponsorship from, say, Riverside Labs or iLabs or ArtStation 101. There's so many.
Yeah. I think because I've been really focusing on GIVIT and getting GIVIT funded and sustainable. Poor little GIVIT Kids is like my 3.5 child. It's built and it's going and it's ticking along and the social media is and humming along, but it's not having that real disruption. Like GIVIT, my board considered GIVIT to be actually a charity disruptor for the funding that it takes, or the 5 cent piece that it takes for GIVIT to run, and the impact that it's having. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about GIVIT Kids later.
How do you reach the GIVIT kids that are in need? Like you're reaching the charities for the adults, but for the kids through the charities?
Yeah, so if a charity actually has a request, that's small postable, that's kind of child friendly, but the story has to be child friendly too.
Yeah.
So I don't want to traumatise a child because the GIVIT, Mother GIVIT, has got stories where we've tried to neutralise it down a little bit, but you can cry sometimes when you read the full story. So if you click on, you'll see a small story, but if you actually click on the item, you'll see a big story about, and I think that story is the thing, that's the hook. And I think we all know that story is the thing that motivates people into action, and GIVIT's got 180 stories on it at the moment.
So it turns out I have a whole load of questions. Thank you, everybody. It's somehow on the wrong screen there, but yeah, did you want to ask us, James?
Before GIVIT, what did the charities do?
Yeah, they had nothing.
It sounds like you filled an amazing gap for them.
Yeah.
So they're out there doing a lot of activity.
And then it's never been done in the world. Like I get the USA, and I've got someone in Greece and Turkey, and I've even got someone in Canada, and everybody, that's never been done. No one's ever actually just started an advertising agency really for need of charities before. It's the first in the world. I'm really surprised by that. Like I think people said to me, why do you think that you were the first? And I said, well, firstly, I think my husband actually had the means to have a wife that didn't need to work. Like that was fortunate. As I said, I've got really clever friends. I had the best guy in advertising. I had a great accountant. I had great advisors around me, and my husband's quite entrepreneurial. Other than that, maybe it's just like lots of other things. Lots of other people would have come up with the idea first. But I'm not saying that I'm never going to have competition. I'm sure one day there will be, but at the moment there's none.
Do you see it as being something that you want to take global?
Yeah, so I've kind of been hinted that once GIVIT's done that there's options, and a New Zealand government have no way of managing offers of assistance, and they have extreme poverty and they have extreme disasters. I mean, someone was telling me that the 38,000 roads were destroyed in Wellington after the earthquakes. So don't quote me on that, but it's like an overwhelming number of roads. So I think that there's a real place to connect the haves and the have-nots in New Zealand. And I think Asia's going to be harder because we really qualify every single one of those charities, not just through Dr. Google, but through other means as well. And so I feel in Asia it would be really hard. It's going to be watch this space. I don't know how that's going to work.
Yeah.
I just wondered, do you have to be like a registered charity to receive something?
No, you don't. No, so it's my criteria. So you have to work directly with someone who's impoverished, marginalised or vulnerable. So GIVIT doesn't actually fulfil its own criteria because we're just an enabler. So you have to work directly. So you have to be able to touch that person. So one guy rang me once and he was the gridiron football team from Inala. His name was Alex, God is sweet. And I said, Alex, there's no chance. I didn't firstly know we had a gridiron football team near Brisbane, okay? And he said, no, actually, well, we actually do work directly with impoverished people. We have 5 homeless people that live underneath the bridge in Inala, and we've really done our resources and we really need support to help them, just these 5 men. He ended up donating more to GIVIT than taking. So, but yeah, I have allowed, in a disaster, sometimes you actually authenticate the only person that actually has mobile connectivity, and it could be Marge, who's the only one with a generator. And so you get the local councillor to approve that Marge is actually not going to pilfer those goods, and then you just give her pallets of water or computer or whatever it is that she needs, or whatever, food, cleaning equipment, whatever her community needs.
Right. Awesome. What happens if funding slows down?
Well, so my goal is to get funding in annuity. It's the ultimate dream for a not-for-profit where you get someone funding you, January, and then you've got funding coming here, and then, where there's always no gaps, but that's always a dream, isn't it?
How much of your time is spent on funding these days?
Last year was pretty intense.
So majority of your time?
Yeah, I was scared. Like, I also thought, I sipped the cup of failure for about 2 weeks. I was really depressed last year because I thought, I've worked really, really hard, and I don't know. Maybe I was thinking the other day, maybe I'm the one who's not good at business or something like that. But I find growing a business really bloody hard. I do. I find being a CEO incredibly hard. It's not all I want to do is just make donations, and go and talk to people about getting a washing machine or a lawnmower. I need lawnmowers at the moment for women escaping domestic violence who've got tenancy agreements they can't fulfil. And so that's my core in life. That's what I'm meant to do. But I'm restructuring and retrenching, and that's just horrible. So I've been out of my comfort zone. Yeah.
Rick? Yeah.
Just a quick question now, Juliette. It's fascinating, your story. Have you considered companies that might have excess inventory?
Mm-hmm.
Because that might be a source of...
They're my favourite kind of companies.
Yes.
So Coles, Target. So GIVIT's now managing all offers of assistance for the Syrian and the Iraqi arrivals on behalf, and so we work with all the settlement services, well, hopefully soon all of the settlement services around the nation. Yeah, so Target just donated 30 pallets of goods towards them. Kmart have donated, Coles donated in disasters. Once Coles, there was Billawheeler. Do you remember they got flooded after Cyclone Marsha? And I rang Coles and I said, these guys have no items, no resources at all. We need to help them out. So literally I went onto Coles online and I picked out everything that I think that they would, this little community, and Coles just shipped it straight there.
Wow.
Yeah, so yeah, it's good. We've got corporate partnerships now. Amatil Coca-Cola, I know the manager in Queensland. I'm like, hey, Pete, I need some water, ASAP, Rocky, So yeah.
What about the smaller companies? I mean, I have
they're the best.
A bit of an entrepreneurial husband, and I know we have several boxes of things that aren't required
Wellingtons,
sitting in storage.
for example. I always need wellies in a disaster.
Not so much Wellingtons, but even like old uniforms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you get much support?
So we
from
do that
those
in offline
smaller businesses?
donations. So, for example, offline donations are we would not put 20 iPads in the virtual warehouse because the same charity would just go dirt, 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 dirt.
Take them.
Yeah, take all of them. So we kind of we control. And what we would do, so for example, if I got a really significant offer, I would then put it out to the relevant charities in that space. So for example, you know, we've got 70 pallets of shampoo and conditioner. I just go to the homeless shelters first. That would be my first thing. I would just automatically go to them or the women's shelters, and I would just do an email out to those social workers that use GIVIT, and I said, do you want this stuff or part thereof? And then we just do that offline.
Okay.
But we do have an offline area in the website, but yeah, I don't tend to go there. I kind of tend to do it on the phone. I was so excited after the Western Australian fires. Coles did a donation run and they had 40 pallets of food, and I was like, finally I get to do some fun stuff, because I was on holidays at Christmas and I was like, yeah. It took me only 5 minutes to donate it. And I was kind of disappointed.
Well, one of the questions here was actually, how do you get your giving high now? Do you manually approve donations every now and again, or what do you try and do to keep it in?
So, like a couple of weeks ago, we've had this huge spike in need for lawnmowers, and what was happening is homeless people were, and everybody's doing such a fabulous job, the social workers, everyone, is getting these people into accommodation. And the domestic violence victims, they're great, and they're getting into new accommodation, but they're signing these tenancy agreements, and they can't maintain their lawns, and then they're getting kicked out. So I actually did a thing on ABC Radio last week to just, you know, Steve Austin's group, and I got 17 lawnmowers just for 5 minutes work. Yeah. So that kept me going for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'm just still happy about that, because, you know, that's a game changer for a young family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the questions is, if you were to value your idea, how much is GIVIT worth?
Oh.
Is that something you've thought about before?
Well, I think about the cost of it to run it, and then I think about the donations that I could purchase with that. I couldn't put a value on the money. I couldn't value it. Can you value a brand? I've just changed the brand.
Of course. You're changing the brand?
I've just changed the brand.
The look and
I
feel.
used to have a Teletubbies kind of brand look and feel. Yeah. It honestly looked Teletubbies, didn't it?
No, it didn't.
Yeah, it did.
It didn't. It was too green. No.
It was really
It was
Teletubbies. But it was you know, it was a disrupting little thing. And
Teletubbies have changed their brand too, just by the way.
Have they? You would know.
Just spotted it the other day and went, ooh.
So, I don't know. That's a really good question. Can someone evaluate how much a brand is worth? I don't think that many people know about GIVIT yet. Like, I think still it's just on that precipice. It's just, 98% of people recommend us to their friends. So that's it's getting there.
Great. You talked about failing as a badge of honour. Would you consider another social enterprise if GIVIT failed?
Oh, yes. I've got like 80 ideas.
You got the bug now?
Yeah. So my board, I just got wrist slapped a lot at my last board meeting, because I'm always coming up with new ideas. So I've actually come up with a drought solution, which I have been told is the most innovative solution to drought recovery that someone's heard in a generation. And the board said I couldn't do it.
So you did it anyway?
Yeah, I got funding for it about last week, so they're going to be a bit shocked. Yes.
Nice.
So apparently they can sack me, but I can also sack them. No, we'll see. Watch this space. But I would really for example, in a disaster, GIVIT. If I got 200 fridges from Harvey Norman and I put them in Billa, I would absolutely knock out the local retrovision guy. So I feel like I'm kind of going that deeper level now. I don't want a donation to do any harm. I'm not Google, but I don't want a donation to do any harm. And if I went into a drought-affected area and brought in donated goods, I could really impact and flatten that economy. So the idea is to use our existing model by going out and asking all the charities what your clients need, asking people also what they need, and actually creating a shopping list of needs. So you've got you've got a toaster for a man who is living alone, you hear the story, $25. Or we find out what that is to purchase locally, and then all the money raised actually then gets invested into the community, and then we measure impact afterwards. So psychological, economical, psychosocial, all those things everybody wants to talk about. And when Westpac said that they would measure that for me, so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds still quite manual, that process.
Yeah. Hence the reason it needs funding.
Yeah.
And me, and the board is saying, no, we've got this strict, strategy and, 5-year strategy, and this is what we're doing. And I'm like, yeah, but, I feel like if I don't get to explore and do a little bit of that, then I get unengaged. I want to, I want to trial that. It's a startup. That's a startup idea, and I want to trial it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to stop me, really.
Have you thought about service-style donations?
What do you mean?
Donating services, I guess.
Oh yeah, so well, I did volunteering on the website, but it didn't work. So I'd get this amazing. I'd get like a orthopedic surgeon that would donate like a whole service to a child, 5 years, you know. And what was happening is social workers were going in. I called it Volunteer Connect. Social workers were coming in and seeing it, but they didn't have the authority because they're just social workers. So social workers are the users and takers of GIVIT. And they didn't have the authority to actually do that. And so it was that's more of a CEO or managing director level to actually connect people. And also once you volunteer your time, there's legal things that you've got to cover. And I thought, no, just leave that to Volunteering Queensland. They do that well. So I moved out of that space.
Okay. Who has surprised you most across your journey?
Oh, I think Rosie Batty last year. So she had just lost her son. It was January. She just lost him in the March before. And so she was so on purpose, She knew what she wanted to do, but she was just feeling so much grief at the same time. But she just had a goal, and you know what that goal is, and to promote and to change what happens to people who are affected by family violence. And but I say being with her was emotional for me. I was the only one of the 4 that actually had children, and and just being around Rosie, when she cried, I cried. Like it was, but yeah, she was inspirational. I remember Nelson Mandela, and I'm not comparing the two, but I actually remember when he said, "I want to get rid of apartheid," and he really said, I'm going to get rid of it. And then violence broke out. Everyone around him, everyone in his everyone in his sphere said, you've got to back down. Don't do this. This is not going to work. Violence in Pretoria broke out. And people were getting murdered. And he went, no, I'm not going to. And he stuck to it. And they really inspire me. And so I remember when I said to my husband and a group of people, I said to a group of people one day that I wanted to alleviate the effects of poverty for Australians. And the head of the guy of this group laughed at me and then told a joke that made everybody else laugh. And I went, yes. Firstly, you go, damn, this is not my tribe. And secondly, I went, no, I don't care what you all think. I've got a big, audacious goal. And, people don't laugh at me anymore.
No.
Yeah, which is good.
That's good. Well, this might actually answer the question I was going to finish on, which was during the tough times when you've been questioning yourself and what you're doing and why, how have you got through them?
Yeah, so that's exactly it.
Is that just single-sided focus? And
so I also did a leadership course through Mikhail Files Black, if anyone want the details, but it's about what do you need to be a leader. And I think sometimes you make a decision and you actually make a decision that everybody disagrees with, and you actually have to experience loneliness. So I felt that, and I've just always gone, no, you know what? Everybody, and so many people have come in to GIVIT and thought that they could do it better. I could swap them roles with them for a week. That'd be lovely. But I've actually gone, no, I don't think anyone I'm the best at steering this ship. I've got a goal that this is going to help people in and out of emergency periods, but making sure that everyone who is in need gets exactly what they need when they need it the most. That's the goal.
Love it. I think that's a great note to end on.
Yeah.
Please join me in thanking Juliette for your time this evening.